There's J-Mo. Get some, J-Mo. Oh, you got to be pretty confident to cut those shorts like that. Look at these two fools. Good thing they're the best in the league, you know? Oh, the ultimate. Right? Some guy getting his jugs machine in. Well, this is a good shot right here. I like this. Inside right here. Oh, here's another standout in camp right here. Bam. DeReese. All right. The Detroit Lions have completed 2 weeks of training camp, and the vibes around Allen Park are exceptional. They will now take operations over to East Rutherford, New Jersey, and begin joint practices with the New York Giants next week, all in preparation for the first preseason game on Thursday, August 8th at 7 p.m. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Johnny Gaz. In today's video, we're going to go over all the news, notes, and updates that you need from Lions camp in week 2. I'll then go over camp's standout so far and another potential gem from that 2021 Lions draft class. Let's go. Before we hit the news and notes from week 2 of camp, make sure to hit that like button if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. The subscription button and notify bell is the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. Let's start with an injury update and some recent roster moves before we talk about what happened this week at camp. The unfortunate part, John Kaminsky on Tuesday the 30th was rolled up on and suffered a right MCL tear. That will be season-ending IR, unfortunately, for the commish. There is an opportunity for him to come back if the Lions get deep into the playoffs, but we'll just hope for the best recovery possible there. Another unfortunate note from that same day, July 30th, they also lost backup offensive lineman Netane Muti, who suffered a left shoulder injury, also placed on IR. That, along with Michael Badgley, the torn hamstring from last week, we know is also on IR. DJ Reader continues his rehab on the left quad injury he had from last year. He is on the physical unable to perform list. The Lions are optimistic in getting him back for week 1. Offensive lineman Christian Mahogany, who the Lions just drafted this past draft, unfortunately has not been at camp so far due to an unknown, undisclosed illness. Dan Campbell has come out and said that at this point now they are concerned with his development. He is a project piece offensive lineman being drafted from Boston College. I think that was their 6th-round draft pick. You know, it's really something that they were hoping to get as much out of him. He was at OTAs, he was at minicamp and showed some signs of life there, but this unfortunate illness he's suffering has really put him behind the 8 ball. Another offensive lineman, Coyote Awasika, has also been out of camp the last few days with an undisclosed injury. Zonovan Knight, the backup running back, was at practice today after missing the previous few days, but was not a part of team drills. On the opposite end of things, Lions signed offensive lineman Jake Burton, formerly with the UFL Michigan Panthers. He was a left guard primarily in 2024 with the Panthers and will look to fill that spot that's now vacated by Netane Muti. The Lions also signed defensive lineman Pat O'Connor, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because the Lions actually drafted Pat O'Connor in one of the latter rounds of the 2017 NFL Draft. He spent the last few seasons with Tampa Bay in kind of a special teams role and will look to fill that depth piece left open by John Kaminsky. Brian Branch also returned back fully to practice as of Tuesday the 30th and has been a full participant in the last few days of practice and the scrimmage today, so that's certainly good to see. We've talked heavy about him being, transitioned over into that safety role, so I'm sure the Lions are happy to have him back in full. So for this week at Lions training camp, Monday the 29th was their first fully padded practice. The entire team, I think, was ready to put the pads on, stemming off of the week prior. You started to see some skirmishes in some of those sessions there, and that has led into a solid week of padded practice. Tuesday the 30th, Motor City Dan Campbell came out and said they'd kind of have a refocus on the fundamentals. They started to get a little bit sloppy there through the first 2 days of padded practice. Again, people being excited and really wanting to get at it. You start to lose some of those early fundamentals, so that's something they wanted to focus on. During the midweek session, Wednesday the 31st was more of a walkthrough, sort of a jog day. A lot of the starting offensive linemen, including Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zeitler, Graham Glasgow were all absent from Wednesday's practice. Thursday the 1st, they went over red zone, a lot of situational type drills, and it was the first time that officials were at practice and have been the remainder of the week here. Just today, Friday the 2nd, was more of a scrimmage type practice, and a lot of good things came out of today. It was kind of their first prep and preseason type scrimmage leading towards next week joint practice with the New York Giants, and of course the preseason game on next Thursday, the 8th. So let's look at the big picture now that we're 2 weeks into training camp. I think overall, one of the biggest things is the competitiveness of the defense compared to seasons past. The defense is really holding their own so far in training camp, especially these last few days where you're seeing more situational type drills, the scrimmage that they just came out of Friday here, August 2nd. The defense is really stepping up, just more competitive. Some of those skirmishes, those battles are because you have more talent on the defensive side of the football. We know what the Lions did in the draft, what they did this offseason as far as adding pieces. Well, one of those pieces in the draft that they picked up was Enos Rakestraw, the guy they got in the second round, the second cornerback that they drafted. Now, we know everything that Terrion Arnold's done so far. Well, Enos Rakestraw has really been the standout of camp, one of the true standouts of camp, especially these last few days. It took a while for the defense to sort of get their first interception, the first turnover. It took several days. Well, Wednesday, I think the 31st, was their first true day where they were able to get their hands on the football. They had 3 interceptions that day. Well, Enos Rakestraw himself has had 3 interceptions over the last 3 days. That's on top of the physical play he was already providing. He's had tackle for losses. He's shown that aggressive play style that he showed in college, and the reason why Brad Holmes and the Lions drafted him. I think you can almost see it already in Terrion, but if you get everything that you're getting out of Enos Rakestraw in these last few days as we head into the preseason and the regular season, it's really interesting to see how the secondary will really contribute to the defense's success, and you're really seeing that here early in training camp with Enos Rakestraw. On top of that, you have returning healthy Marcus Davenport, the defensive end that they signed this offseason. And we know he's had injury struggles his entire career. He started with the New Orleans Saints, where he had the familiarity with the Lions coaching staff, Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn. He then comes to Minnesota, has production when he was healthy, but then unfortunately just couldn't stay in the lineup. Lions then pick him up, and he's now shown that he's fully healthy and sort of getting back into the groove of things. If he can get himself back into form, back into shape, and back to the production that he was showing when he was healthy, it's scary what could be on the other side there for Aiden Hutchinson. And that leads into that discussion. Hutch and Aleem McNeil, of course, are off to a fantastic start. Hutch just continuing his ascension. Aleem McNeil, who we have spent big time on a previous video talking about, how he's sort of broken out in 2023 and now will become a star in 24. Well, that's seeming to show now so far in preseason and training camp. And both those guys give a lot of credit to the new defensive line coach that they brought in, Terrell Williams, who has sort of brought in this new aggression, taking some of the thinking out of it and just allowing these guys to play. Well, both Hutch and Aleem McNeil are starting to shine with that direction. Kind of a cool story coming out of camp today was the Amon-Ra St. Brown challenge to Jahmyr Gibbs. He's laid out a challenge to him saying if you can produce 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing this season, he will buy him anything he wants. Now, I don't know if there's going to be some limitations set on that, but those are hefty goals. But remember, Jahmyr Gibbs came this close to 1,000 rushing yards last season. I think he finished with 945 yards, give or take. But he was way short of 1,000 yards receiving. I think he was just over 300. So he'd have to get a lot more involvement in the passing game for him to come close. But we know he's worked with him a lot this preseason. Before he was fully back healthy, Jahmyr Gibbs spent some time with Amon-Ra St. Brown after practice sessions working on releases, different routes. I think that's sort of where he could be a part of making up for the Josh Reynolds departure. So if he's able to add those numbers on, he could maybe get close to 1,000. We know, I think Christian McCaffrey was the last running back to do so, and he was with the Panthers at the time. So who knows? I think it would take a lot, but Jahmyr Gibbs certainly has shown the talent that he could do that, and I thought that was a really, really cool story. And then we got to talk about the great debates. Jake Bates. The Lions brought him in with a lot of fanfare coming out of the UFL, having the big leg. We know he can hit from distance, but he's been very inconsistent, and it was so true here in this last day of training camp, Friday the 2nd. Now, depending on what your source is or where you get your information from, he was anywhere from 8 out of 14 or 8 out of 15 field goals today. Let me say that again, 8 out of 14. That's not a good percentage. And I won't read off the sequence of kicks, but they were not all from distance. We're talking true inconsistency. He also even missed an extra point in today's session. So, unfortunately, I think this was the ultimate fear in bringing him in is, yes, he can hit from distance, but can he show the consistency to be an NFL kicker? And so far in camp, that has not been the case. So the Lions are going to have to think about what they do with their roster now at kicker. They brought in the 4 additional guys, which we talked about in a previous video, and none of those guys ended up being signed to the active roster. So now what do they do going into next week? It'll be very interesting to see, and we will keep our ears to the ground. I will keep you posted if we hear anything on that. Let's now do a deeper dive into the ultimate standout of Lions training camp so far. We've talked about in great detail finding help for Hutchinson. If the Lions are going to take the next step this season, if they're going to get to and win a Super Bowl, they have to find help on the defensive line. We know what they've done to revamp the secondary. We've talked about how Enos Rakestraw has been a standout at camp so far. Well, this guy has shown that he is ready for this season. He is coming off of a major injury. He took a few good steps in 2023, and he is ready to break out this season. We are talking about defensive lineman Levi Onwuzurike. Levi Onwuzurike was born March 2nd, 1998, and is originally from Allen, Texas. He is a first-generation American. His parents are originally from Nigeria, and at the early age of 3, he followed in the footsteps of his older brothers and began to play football. He attended Allen High School in Allen, Texas, and that is big-time Texas football, 20,000-seat stadium. There at Allen High School, he won 3 state championships the 4 years that he was there, turning himself into a 4-star recruit and the number 54 defensive end in the country, according to ESPN. He was the Dallas Morning News All-Area Defensive Player of the Year in 2015. Receiving offers from big-time schools, Baylor, Arizona State, the University of Michigan. He actually committed to attend the University of Washington, where he spent from 2016 to 2019. Over his career at Washington University, he had 95 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and was named to the first team All-Pac-12 in 2019. He opted to forego his 2020 season and entered the 2021 NFL Draft. As we know, Levi was part of that historic 2021 draft class for the Lions, selected 41st overall in round 2 of that 21 NFL Draft. He did play in 16 games his rookie season, but was plagued by back injuries. So much so that he committed to have surgery, L5 and the S1 vertebrae fusion surgery during that offseason, which took him out for the entirety of 2022. He slowly worked himself back in the 2023 season, playing in 10 games. Towards the end of the season, he really started to show some flashes and even into the playoffs there. Put it this way. In 2021, Levi Onwuzurike had 3 quarterback pressures overall. In 2023, he had 10 quarterback pressures in only 88 rush snaps. He's truly been one of the standouts in the 2024 preseason and training camp so far. The work ethic, his back seems to be fully healed. His explosion's there. He's showing everything the Lions thought they saw in him when they drafted him back in 2021. And then the unfortunate series of injuries and the back problems he's had has really put him behind it. But now that he's recovered fully, he's back into the mix. He's really now put himself in a position where he could be very valuable for 2024 and beyond. They've moved him all about the defensive line this preseason. I think, not only in an effort to sort of find where he fits best, but now with the John Kaminsky injury, they really have a need at defensive tackle. So to have that versatility to use him not only at the defensive end position, but also inside, again, will be super huge for that defensive line and the defense overall. Not only that, but Levi Onwuzurike is now in a contract year. So he has all the motivation in the world, just like fellow defensive lineman Nalim McNeil, to show everything he has to earn himself a contract with the Lions next season and beyond. It will be so much fun to see how Levi Onwuzurike can contribute to the Lions defensive line and the defense overall as we now head into the first true preseason week. Are you excited for joint practices with the Giants? We are now less than a week away from the first preseason game. So many things to look forward to, so many camp battles still out ahead of us. I'm excited to see what happens with Jake Bates in the kicking situation. We're going to see a lot of Hendon Hooker. Can he start to develop himself through these preseason games? Will we see any of the starters at all? I really don't expect to be the case, so we're going to get a lot of second team and third team battles. What are you guys looking forward to? Let me know down in the comments. You looking forward to joint practices with the Giants? What should we be looking for in that first preseason game? I'm so excited. More than anything, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's gotten involved with the channel. If you dig what we're doing here today, hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. We're going for 200 likes on today's video. If you hit the subscription button and notify bell, it's the best way to make sure you stay involved and don't miss any future videos here on the channel. And if you hit the join button on any one of my videos, I'll walk you through all the different levels and how you can become a part of the family. I have a ton of fun stuff planned for the regular season. You definitely don't want to miss out. Thank you guys so much. More than anything, make sure to take care of yourself and your mental health. That's so important, and I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a fantastic day.